Hi guys, this is Nadia Hilliker. I'm playing Magna on The Walking Dead, and you guys are listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast, and I'm sending you all my love. Bye!
Hello, my name is Cassie McClincy. I play Lydia on The Walking Dead, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. Yeah!
Hey there guys, I'm Callan McAuliffe and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through on Talk Through Media.
Hey, I'm Lindsley Register and I play Laura on The Walking Dead. You're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through on Talk Through Media.
Hey, this is Ross Marquand and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through.
Awesome.
Hey, survivors! Welcome to episode 156 of The Walking Dead Talk Through, Dead City Edition. I'm LT.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm Brian. All right. Tonight, we will be covering The Walking Dead Dead City, Season 1, Episode 5, titled Stories We Tell Ourselves.
But first, I'm going to jump in this because I didn't...
Oh, but first.
Yeah. So, we got a message from Alma from Sacramento that I thought was like, oh, good. I'm glad to finally hear from her.
Yay, Alma!
Because I know it's like we've I don't know if we've mentioned it on this podcast for this season, but it was just like kind of like, oh, yay, I'm like, glad that you guys are with us. We have like a lot of other people that join us here and there, but she posted on the last week's episode post that she said, hey guys, she's like, I haven't dropped a comment, but I just wanted to let you know I'm still listening. I'm listening to episode 4cast as we speak and wanted to give you all takes on Negan. He has definitely changed, perhaps not fully redeemed, but damn, how much more does the guy got to do to be redeemed? As far as Jenny is concerned, stuff will be revealed soon. And then she's like, a kiss emoji. And she's like, I already watched episode 5, so hopefully I'll get my comment in to y'all in time. It's been great listening to y'all, and I had missed you. So I wanted to say, I think I posted a comment. I just wanted to say, like, Alma, thank you. I'm glad just letting us know that you're still, listening to us. But you can always post comments even after we recorded. So don't feel like that you missed your chance or like whatever. We can always cover it on the next episode. So just glad
that we can.
Yep. And just glad to hear from you. It's always good.
We are. Yes. Okay. Well, let's kick off the episode. So tonight we are talking about The Walking Dead Dead City Season 1, Episode 5, Stories We Tell Ourselves. Was written by Brenna Kouf and directed by Gandja Monteiro. And the description, according to YouTube TV, was truths are unearthed and motives are revealed as Maggie, Negan, and the others travel further into the city's depths. So, guys, what are your ratings for this week's episode? Kyle?
You want me to go first?
I want you to go first.
Yeah, so actually, I mean, not to say that the episode was just like not great, but I think this is the lowest that I've given. So I gave it a 6 Huff and Fleshies out of 10. Just very...
Dude.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say that this episode wasn't great. I don't know. I just found it to be a confusing mess. The name of the writer, Brenna Kouf, that is a good name for the sound effect of this episode. Brenna Kouf. Brenna Kouf. Anyway, just I just found it to be hard to follow, a confusing mess. It didn't, despite some cool things going on, particularly one thing, I don't know. It just didn't, it didn't grab me. I just found it confusing. So I give it 5 methane-induced trips out of 10.
I can agree with that.
I didn't like it.
Well, I gave it 6 out of 10. This explains why plumbers are expensive. Or Dazed and Confused, The Walking Dead edition. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but I have to kind of concur with you as that it was hard to follow. It was kind of weird in places. They dropped several things that I'm kind of wondering what they're going to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And despite the fact that they did have some cool special effects, that they always have some kind of cool practical effects.
Yeah.
But I'm going, this is the 5th of 6, and I'm not sure if we're going to, I don't see how they're going to wrap this up in one episode.
You know, one thing I noticed, the, coming attractions or whatever the on the next, it didn't say it was a season finale. It just said on the next. So I'm wondering, is it in fact 6 episodes, or is it, because I looked at it more than once just to see, and it appeared to not say it was the season finale. So I don't know what that means.
And see, that was something I'm going to get into later, but it's like AMC told us it was 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
All the promo material said it was 6 episodes. Unless next week they're going to give us the world's worst segue to a new series.
Right.
Yeah, looking at Wikipedia, there are only 6 episodes listed.
Yeah.
And the last one is written by the showrunner, and this is actually the 4th episode. This will be the 4th episode that he's written. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see, because, I mean, also during this week, they are, I'll leave that for news, but
yep.
There's a lot of just not knowns of like what their plans are.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get into some listener ratings, and we'll kick that off with Dieta from Detroit, who says 7 out of 10. What in the alien walker did I just watch?
Funny. Glennis from Toronto gave it a 7 out of 10. Walker Boss.
Mike from Asheville gives it 5 out of 10. A long walk.
And Ivan from Minnesota gives it a 4 out of 10. The Thing meets The Walking Dead.
Good one.
And that's a good call.
Yeah.
All right, so if that's all our ratings, it's time to start it off with some awesome sauce. And, of course, to kick off our awesome sauce, we have Dieta from Detroit again, who says, okay, the sewer walker was awesome, just didn't like how they brought it out. Maybe have some dialogue about something sinister lurking in the sewers first, with a hordes of dead instead of waking up out of the blue.
Interesting.
I would agree with that assessment.
Yeah.
Dieta, that's a good way to put it. That's kind of where I was with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next is Glenn from Toronto, and she says the Walker Boss was awesome that Maggie had to battle with in the sewers, even though the concept looked to be copied from The Last of Us. Maybe.
Yep.
I have not watched that show, so I can't comment on it. Ivan from Minnesota says the Thing sewer walker was pretty awesome and looked great. One of the most unique walkers we've seen. I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
Yep.
Exactly.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
And our last bit of awesome sauce from the listeners is Mike from Asheville, who says, Zombie King. Kudos to the props department and makeup for that. I kind of wish they did a little bit more with that scene, but he really looked cool. And I will concur, sir.
Yeah, to that, I guess that is the consensus, is the best thing about the episode was the Walker King.
Yeah.
You know,
It was.
And yeah. So that's about the biggest thing that I could say. Although I do have one more.
And I do too.
So who wants to go first?
Well, I guess since we're talking about the Walker King, and that's pretty much, I think, all I put in here.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, it's like I kind of was in the same agreement. Everybody, it was like it really was like the best part of the show, and I know we've seen the clips of that, and so it was like that was a great part of the episode, and probably I would even say so far like the best like part of this season of this Walking Dead, because like I just felt like we have never seen anything so frightening like that. They did such a good job. It was just the way it was shot, how it came, like just the heads coming through it, it was a very, very like frightening, terrifying, like total horror scene. And it just makes me wish. Yeah. And it just makes me wish they had done more of that during the season. So that it would really have made this season stand out more.
And you can kind of see how it happened, and maybe it took sewers in New York for a big stack of zombies to congeal with each other, and
right. No, I mean, but that's kind of the thing, though. It's like I felt like Dead City. I mean, this could be, of course, to my mind, but I just felt like that the show was supposed to be like so like. This place is so dangerous that it was like you would not have chosen to set foot on that island. Like that was like, this place was like, okay, everybody knew that they blew the bridge. It was just like, that is just, do not go there or you're going to die. Cause it was just like, they had like there was like their first few scenes in episode 1 where like the walkers were falling from the sky. And, then we basically didn't really get much until now we get this Walker, the Walker King. So it wasn't anything that was like really too crazy going on. And I just felt like that's what we were going to get more of. And it's not like they had to be like variant level either. It was just like they could have had more fun with these like unique walkers that were coming from this big city environment. And that was my expectation going into the season. And it was kind of like we got a little bit of it, but yeah, it was like.
And we got, like I said, some of it in the tunnel scenes, because they did have the big piles, the big piles of squishy, like almost an animated wall of walkers.
Yeah, yeah.
Which you could have done a little bit more with if you weren't so busy making Maggie tripping balls on methane.
Yeah. Which I thought that was also kind of a cool part of the scene too, because it was kind of like she was tripping out on methane. They already mentioned that was like, oh, like this is going to affect you. And if you start feeling like your head's pounding, whatever, it's like, then it's time to run. And so that this Walker King zombie was like, even more crazy looking. So was that part of her kind of hallucinating it, or was it just like there's just I don't know. There was like a lot of fun play on just because of that situation. She was totally tripping, and and here's this like crazy freaking walker, that we've never seen before. So I don't know. Just that really was like the best part of this whole episode. It was like. That was kind of like sitting through everything. That was like kind of the payoff, and they had to leave it at the end. Yep. Well, that was it. So
okay. Well, if I'm gonna go, I'll be like everybody else and say, yes, I thought the Boss Walker was awesome, and I think Mike may have said it. Ivan may have said it. I think it was Ivan. That it did remind me of the John Carpenter's thing when you had the big mobile blob and the head would come out and it was like, wah!
What it reminded me of, and I want to say this because I didn't write it down, it reminded me of Alien, especially with the, like head coming out of the abdomen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Or chest, I guess it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was, like I said, I think if you can say they shot their whole practical effect budget on that one thing. It would have been cool had we gotten a couple more similar to that or something as creepy, because great scene, made me jump, definitely got the horror movie reaction out of me, just not enough of it. The other thing that I mentioned in my awesome sauce is kind of funny. When they were standing in the sewer and there was that huge blob of like, the guy said what, it was like congealed fat that was blocking the tunnel.
Yeah.
That's why I made my plumber comment, because I'm thinking, okay, you've got crappy sewers in New York times however many years, plus all the zombies in various states of decomposition and saponification. I'm like, just thinking, okay. So the first episode, we had the huge pile of trash and all the cockroaches. Mm-hmm. But the more I thought about that huge, rendered zombie fat sewer draining blob of, fat and poop and whatever else blocking the tunnel, I'm going, wah, wah.
Yeah, and he touched it. It's so gross.
And he touched it.
I know, that was gross.
But then thinking, okay. So we know that the Croat is making, using zombies to make fuel. I'm like, come on. You could start a soap factory with that. You could make millions.
Yeah, it would remind me a little bit of Fight Club. When he said that and I saw the pink of the fat, I was like, oh yeah, Fight Club, the pink.
Yep.
Oh, soap, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so what else do you have, Brian?
Well, since nobody else mentioned it, I thought that the scenes with Negan and Mr. Pearly Armstrong, such a weird name, were enjoyable, less disconnected than the rest of the episode was.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps that was by design because of the methane trippiness of it, but I kind of liked how it was more, I don't know, nuanced. You kind of see the gears with Pearly going, that I think he's slowly starting to realize that Negan's not the bad guy that he thought he was. Mm-hmm. Particularly he kind of did a little bit of a pause when he heard what how Negan found his wife, and why he killed them and that kind of stuff. I think that did have an effect on him. Maybe not like when Negan saved him, even with like Negan, I hate to say it, but Negan kind of did something that I do a lot of times, where he'll say something like, well, I'll do this, but you'd better do this. And the guy says no, and he does it anyway. Right. Mm-hmm. And he can't help himself. He has to help the guy. And I thought that was a good kind of character thing of, to see Negan do that, he's not, always, we saw so much of that bad guy in those first 2 seasons of Negan. And, we could see kind of layers of maybe where he was, more like not a pure bad guy. And now we're kind of seeing it kind of the opposite way, where he's a good guy with things that he can do to be bad. And anyway, I kind of like those scenes. And and the one thing it's not really a scene, and I didn't write it down, but I wanted to highlight it as part of those scenes. I kind of like, for some reason, when Negan was trying to get in the door and and he's like struggling with the door, and then all of a sudden there's like this weird door that like looks like it's an ice box upside down, and I think that's what it was. And he opens it up, and it turns out to be the door to go in. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
I was pondering about the refrigerator door to get in the building myself.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought it was worth mentioning as well, because like I said, I found those scenes with Negan easier to follow, a lot less annoying, certainly less trippy, and more enjoyable than most of the rest of the episode. So that's where I'm going with that.
Yeah, and I think that he may be actually softening the marshal up a little bit, but
yes,
but it was the fact that here we've had, this is sort of the culmination of the marshal's mission to capture Negan, and now that he's got him, he's kind of going, well, he's not the guy that they quite made him out to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was kind of funny because I saw something in Negan that kind of I do, and sometimes I hate myself for doing it, but like I'll feel like, somebody's almost not taking advantage of me, but kind of like, not, you want to do something for them, but at the same time they need to do something for you, but they don't. And you feel bad about not doing something, so you do it for them anyway. So,
okay.
Anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense, but just I saw a little bit of Negan in me, because I've tended to do that myself. In fact, I did that today for something. So anyway,
all right. Well, if that's all our awesome sauce, then it's time for the weak sauce.
You're worthless and weak.
And it looks like we'll start off with Ivan from Minnesota, who says, too much time spent on Jenny and the Marshall guy. I do not like either of them, and they are both dull characters. The ninja walkers all coming out at once of the dead body piles to kill Tommaso and the girl felt like something out of fear. It was a lame way for them to go. At least have the Croat kill them and make him more evil. Honestly, most of this episode was boring and didn't do much. Also, I have a feeling they're not getting Herschel back and they're going to drag this out. And he finishes with an eye roll.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Ivan, and I would have put this in my weak sauce as well. The whole Tommaso and what's her name, Maya, I think.
Yeah,
Amaya. Yeah.
Yeah, their deaths were very, like, I mean, when it's revealed that Tommaso was the mole, which I remember, LT, you were talking about the idea that there could be a mole last week, and revealing that it was Tommaso, which I guess kind of made sense. When that was revealed, I'm thinking, okay, how much longer in the episode is it before he kicks the bucket?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know, both of their deaths were seen, but at the same time, they weren't terribly interesting. They were kind of like, I don't know, they were just not, it could have been better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's actually,
at least for one of them, it could have been better.
Right.
Yep.
Agree completely. It's actually one of my part of my weeks.
Oh, okay. I didn't scroll down far enough to read yours.
No, it's totally fine because I think Glennis actually mentioned some in her feedback. Well, then that leads us to our last of the weeks, which is from Dieta from Detroit. And she says, the whole sewer scene, why are our people walking through a bunch of dead without checking to make sure they are dead first? Watching the last two survivors meet their untimely deaths due to the walkers waking from a nice nap. So I guess walkers take naps now? Question marks. Or are we supposed to believe that they were dormant from being in the methane-filled sewer until they smelt fresh meat? And she like chin scratch emoji, which I think we've seen some of that like when there's not any activities, the walkers can just kind of be like, okay, we're just going to lay here and until something stirs them up.
I mean, we've seen that from way back to the prison. I'd say.
Oh yeah, and many other times too. It's just like it's not that they're dormant. I guess they're probably they're not getting any kind of stimulus because they're not hearing or smelling live
wasn't
stuff.
Wasn't that the deal with the walkers in the military hangar from the main show?
Yeah, they were just all sitting there and they were trying to like get in there quietly.
They were all like nappy walkers.
Yeah, I guess they still needed rest.
Military hangar. What?
Okay. When they
trying to picture, I know that, but I'm saying I don't.
It was like one of the first episodes. They rappelled down out of the rafters to get MREs, and they ended up waking up the walkers, and they found an M16 with bullets in it. It's like a hangar with helicopters in it, and it was full of walkers. And it was the one where I was going on, why did they have to do the Mission Impossible rappel in when couldn't they just gone in a door?
Right. Yeah,
I remember the episode. I'm blank on the season.
Yeah, I feel like it was before Commonwealth.
Yeah.
But like close to when all that was like.
Because remember it was that Daryl like found the guy that had the backpack with MREs in it, and they figured out there was a military base nearby.
Mm-hmm. And
okay,
yeah, we'll have to.
I do recall that. That wasn't that early. Like
anyway, the point being is that was the first time that they were talking about the sleeping walkers.
Well, the first one that I can remember was in season 3 when Grandpappy Herschel lost his leg. That was a lurker, and they were in the prison, and he got too close to one, and that walker did a chomp on his leg. Right?
You're right. Yeah,
and that's when I think that was the first episode from season 3, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, that was, as far as I can remember, the first time I ever saw a lurker. And we've seen them off and on pretty much all the series since, but yeah, I mean, this was like a whole thing of lurkers.
Right.
Which you kind of get. I mean, like if you think about it, like they're basically alive, but I don't know, like do walkers need nourishment? I guess they kind of do. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. No, but that's the thing. It's like you would think that after there's nothing really alive, most of them, I guess, they all basically herd together and just wander. But at some point, yeah, they're in a prison. Or not prison, but like they were in the sewer, so they don't really have many places to go. That you would think that they would just like, they have no stimulus, so they just basically like, we have nothing to do, that they would just lay there, Plus,
right,
we still never get any of the real, like when it's winter and it's below freezing, walkers should freeze and not be able to move and do anything, and that's when you should go out and dispatch them all. But that's
what New York City needs is a good old fashioned nor'easter,
Yeah.
And snow down like 60 inches of snow or whatever the heck they get in those big snowstorms.
Yeah. But that's never been ever addressed.
Or a hurricane, sure.
We'll have another hurricane and wash the sewers out.
I mean, I don't know how badly Manhattan's gotten hit by hurricanes. I know like some of the other areas have been, like Staten Island has, and Long Island, but I don't know about Manhattan itself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never been to New York City, so I don't know.
Neither have I. All right, well, I'm going to continue on. She says, I'm just saying if they were dormant, what woke them up? Because it certainly wasn't any noise, because they were sitting on a pile of dead having conversations. Sidebar, the way my OCD set up, and then she's some emojis. I would be going crazy about being in a sewer, let alone sitting and talking on a pile of methane swelling dead carcasses. She's like, okay, I got that out. Now back to the program. Why wouldn't they make some noise to see if anything moved or moaned first before stopping and sitting? Unlike Ivan, I think the sewer alien walker, or thing walker as he called it, was too much in my opinion. So the methane caused them to become fused together, making one 3-headed walker with 6 arms, walking up out of the methane slumber to attack Maggie, who was conveniently stuck in a methane decomposed carcass walker body. I don't know, it all just seemed more for a story than a real situation. I would say that...
Well, yes.
Yeah.
And like I said, just to be pedantic, let's not get the cart before the horse. The decomposing corpses cause the methane.
Yeah.
That the methane doesn't make the corpses decompose.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and two, it's still the whole, you're talking about, that's a lot of bodies, kids. So, you know, they've got them stacked up like cordwood down there, and it just kind of makes me wonder, well, how did they get all piled up down there? Did they like fall through manholes and just kind of like squish up next to each other? Or, you know, was there some sort of traumatic event that caused them all to get, you know, so neatly rowed in piles down there?
Yeah, we don't. I mean,
I don't know. Is this the way that the Croat's, you know, stacking his future fuel materials? No one knows.
Yep, that is the mystery.
Well, to me, it got to be the point where it was kind of, you know, along her OCD creepiness there, it was kind of like, I don't know, it almost had the horror movie, you know, ossuary horror movie catacomb, like Indiana Jones kind of thing, except it was squishier and grosser and had more gas in it.
Yep. All right. Well, that was all of our listeners' week sauces. So that leads to ours.
So I guess I'll start off. My week sauce is once again the Yorkers proved to be the red shirts of Dead City. That for all the development, or what little development we got with Tommaso and Maya, they just pretty much died. You know, and they died pointlessly, much like their peers did in the stadium. I don't know if they really furthered the plot. They were there and they died. And I don't think they died well. That was the only thing that really bugged me.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, if you're going to have a character, even if they're going to be, you know, one-offed or T-dogged, at least make them die well, you know? And I guess I have to go ahead and say it because I know that several other people are going to say it at one point or another, is Jenny. So she hasn't, yeah. You didn't give me something I could hold on to, sadly. But you did give me something I could talk about. I don't know, man. I really don't. Because we wondered what the deal was. We wondered if she was going to be, you know, Aunt May for Negan. And then she turns out that she's a mole. That she was all this time not saying anything. And doggone it, what movie was that? Oh, I know what it was. It was Guns of Navarone. That they, you know, had the girl that was supposedly couldn't talk and was victimized by the Nazis. And it turns out that she didn't have horrible scars and that she was a mole. She was a double agent set to, you know, keep the team from, you know, succeeding. And so we had this all this time. We've been dragging her around and we've saved her life. And then it turns out that she's working for somebody else because she fired the flare gun.
Yeah. She borrowed from Fear.
And so now I'm kind of going, well, was the whole thing with Herschel just insurance to get Maggie to drag Negan in there? And Jenny was the backup plan? Or was Jenny the original plan and Maggie the backup? Or however it was going to work. Is like, let's get as many plot hooks as we can to make sure that Negan is on the island for the final. Oh, God, I almost said the final countdown. But, yeah, thanks, Brian. That's where my head went anyway. But, was she just the plot hook to make sure Negan was there for whatever's going to happen?
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I'm going, you've been kind of a dead weight character. We've wondered what you've been doing all this time. And so now, 5 episodes in, we figured out that, even though you had the heartfelt one-way conversation with Maggie about your dinosaur, that you've been packing a flare gun this entire time.
Yeah, it's just her whole character.
I'm going to give this episode a 3.
You changing it?
Well, because honestly, I didn't. You just I don't know what to say about what you just said, LT, because I didn't even pick up any of that at all. So the fact that I didn't pick up on it is I give less marks because I didn't even see that. I guess the thing is when Ginny's on, I'm just so bored that I don't pay attention to anything she does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes it also kind of makes it weird too, because it's like, so she wrote liar on the wall to that Maggie saw.
Yeah.
And then we see the whole clip with like, oh no, the grain things silos are full. So it's like, if she's a mole for the Croat trying to get Negan in, maybe, or saying if that was kind of like, maybe that was some kind of part-ish plan, but then it's like, okay, well then why show us that? Because it's like, that's not her mission. Why would she care? Well,
unless it's going to turn out that she really does like Negan, and she's trying to basically tell Negan that Maggie's full of Bologna, that there's got to be another plot twist as to why Maggie did what she did. Maybe she was secretly in league with the Croat. There's got to be something else to make that liar stick.
I don't see that. I mean that's what I like. I thought that liar was based on her saying, that Negan was not the bad guy or whatever. Yeah. So she was reacting to what Maggie said. So
we'll figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, but then again, I didn't even pick the fact that it was Ginny that shot the flare gun. I didn't know who shot the flare gun. Maybe I was looking down at the time.
You must have been, because they took a big long sequence of her pulling it out of her side bag and clicking the thing shut and pointing it up into the air and doing the poop.
That's the thing. I can't get into the character anymore.
Usually toning it out.
I am literally like, when she's on screen, I am like looking at my phone, because I'm not expecting anything to happen other than her looking earnestly at somebody.
You were tripping balls on methane in your apartment.
Pretty much. I just I don't know. The character is not working for me at all, and this episode didn't work for me. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I really didn't like it, and I just felt like it was just this confusing mess of just like,
I'll go with that.
It seemed like, I'll put it to you this way. it seemed like an episode written during a writer's strike. Now, we know that that's not exactly true, even though a writer's strike is going on. This episode was completed months ahead of that, but still, it just felt incomplete to me. And I don't know. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think were you going to Jenny some more, Kyle?
No.
Okay. Well, I think the last thing that I brought for weeks is, that's some mighty fine evacuation plan you got there, Marshall. We were kind of led to believe that he knew where he was going, that he was familiar with the city and kind of knew the geography and knew the layout of the place. And it just seemed like that, if you want to use the old Western analogy, that he basically led them into a box canyon so that, the banditos that are chasing them would have them all hemmed up. Now, granted, they were able to open the refrigerator and go inside the building and see the exciting art hanging there on the wall of all the arms and torsos. But, yeah, I'm like, okay, Mr. Man with a Plan. So far, you're not really impressing me as to going from point A to point B without being, attacked by hordes of walkers. And I'm still kind of fuzzy on the whole idea of all they have to do is get to the docks.
Yeah, I go.
Does he have like a boat stashed somewhere in a warehouse? Or
No, he mentioned, and there was that. Wasn't there like some?
He said something about a barge.
Yeah, there was like, I think there was like, he was looking at a pamphlet of something, but basically, yeah. So
there
out
was
on
a
those
ferry.
docks,
It's like the ferry sketch.
Yeah, but on the docks are like
they were going to go to the pier, and the pier had like a dock or a barge or something that could be disconnected and would float, and they would just use that to get to the other side.
Right. No.
Yeah.
That's the thing. There was a scene in the picture, or there was a picture that you said, but yeah, it was like these, those, what do you call them, that they make, that basically you put on a dock so that floats on the water and it just
like
goes up
pontoons?
And down. Basically, but it was like they're all strapped together and that's what's making the dock. And he was like, oh, we'll disconnect those and just like basically float across.
Yeah,
that's his whole plan.
It's basically like, if for a floating dock, they're pontoons.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still going,
no, yeah,
not much of a plan there, because what is it that Negan kept telling him? Well, the Croat has the island pretty well buttoned up, and I guess it goes along with some of these other things that, maybe miraculously he's going to go and there's going to be a floaty pontoon and they're going to pontoon their way to safety.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yes, we will. And I was waiting for you to say your other one, Kyle, so I could go.
So you can chime in on that one. Okay.
I could chime in.
Okay.
I have a chime.
Well, the first one, I like Glennis is going to mention this in her feedback, but I wanted to put this in my weak sauce because it was just like basically and how Tommaso and Amaya died. Because I didn't understand, like, why would you even think that you were safe to just like take your pit stop in a room full of like dead bodies and not think one of them was a walker? Like, it just, that just goes hand in hand. It's like, and then also, they were in hallways or something. It's like, I'm sure there's other rooms that were much more cleaner than that. But it's just like, I just felt like it was like a weak way to basically off them, because it would have been so much better if it was like they had like the King Walker, of how terrifying it was. And it was kind of like that was the big boss battle of the episode. But like having that be how Tommaso and Amaya got killed.
Yeah.
And then like and then Maggie barely surviving that, like she already like did on this one. But it was like that would have played so much better than them just being like, oh, we're sitting here resting and sitting on dead bodies, and you're right. Like, you wouldn't think that, like,
what? Even or if they'd have fallen through a hole in the floor,
right? That's
something a little better than take 5, smoke if you got them,
and then
you suddenly get bit from the stack of bodies you're leaning against.
Yeah. So I don't know. We like Brian said, it's like we knew that as soon as Tommaso like basically said like, oh hey, yes, I was the one that ratted you all out. That was basically it for those characters. Like,
yeah,
it's just
so it's like I said, they didn't even really get T-dogged. Because I don't think they even got any exposition. They basically just got put in there, and this is about as red shirty as it gets.
No, true. Very true. All right. Well, then the next one was Negan knowing where the first aid kit was on that was on that bus. And then I just felt like, wouldn't you think that after all this time that there would not be any supplies like that at all? And it's like, because whatever survivors of New York, like there would have been so much scavenging going on that it just seems like this bus that just is in the middle of the street that like seems perfect for people to be trying to sit in, rest in, or like whatever. It's just
right. Well, I was going to say, Kyle, do you know where the first aid kit on the bus is?
I don't, but I would know that it's probably under a seat, or like he found it on, up on the thing. I mean, you just have to search the bus.
Most school buses do have an overhead bin in the front.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you know that that's an overhead bin, you may not know to look.
True, but this one was exposed.
Again, as a former bus driver, I was just going to throw my devil's advocacy in there.
That I would totally agree that if you didn't know where to look for it, if it was like in some kind of like easily like not a secret compartment, but something that looks like just the bus, but this one was attached openly and he just grabbed it, and so that's why I was like, seriously. And it had this alcohol or whatever he poured on his wound, and was like, no way. After 10 years or whatever it's been, it's like none of that would have even be there. Someone would have already gotten it.
Well, plus wouldn't alcohol evaporate?
Or or like even if it was still closed
in a sealed thing,
it would have
might evaporate. It might just be stronger. I don't know.
Yeah, just there's no first aid kit in The Walking Dead after this long. All right. Well, that was all I had.
All right. Well, if we're all done with the weeks, that means it's time for the what sauce.
What?
And it looks like the what sauce we got is from Ivan from Minnesota, who says, Maggie not taking the oxygen didn't make any sense. It was like she was being stubborn, but for what reason? Especially after the Yorkers died, she could have taken it at least then.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty valid point. But if she took the oxygen, then we wouldn't have all the, Scooby-Doo dream sequence, super tunnel vision shots that they pulled on us. So
it just makes you question, though, was part of it because she didn't trust him, thinking it might have not been oxygen, or it seemed like you put it on the kid, and the kid basically started breathing.
And that was the thing that I thought of, because I was going, okay, well, if the Croat had, shot him with nitrous oxide or whatever he shot him with, because I don't know, I know methane kills you. I don't know if it's necessarily hallucinatory like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
All I know is you can't smell it, and that's why natural gas has bitterants put in it.
Right.
So that you can smell it. But I was kind of thinking, well, how convenient that Tommaso pulls those 2 oxygen bottles out from the middle of nowhere in the middle of this tunnel that he just randomly found.
Yeah.
And I would say, for me, the oxygen bottles were more like Kyle's first aid kit. It's like, so just were these oxygen bottles just happened to be walking down the tunnel and suddenly got found?
Yeah.
Just didn't seem like a thing you would find down there.
No,
and especially bottles with hoses and masks.
Yeah.
You know, did somebody like leave their CPAP machine down there?
Yeah. I think didn't they, wasn't it, he was trying to play it off as like, oh, that the Croats people, oh, they must have left them. Oh, how lucky we are! Like the worker bees that were that man those tunnels.
It just seemed. I was expecting him to suddenly take a heel turn, if you want, pardon my wrestling thing, because that just seemed a little convenient. Of course, it turns out that he didn't have enough plot density to do anything really devious.
Yeah, yeah, no. Oh, funny.
Okay, well, I guess it's time for our what's all, since we've already started whatting. So, since I only had one, I guess I'll start. And it's like, so, who's the girl?
Right.
I think all of us have sort of asked, so, who's the chick in the theater?
Yeah, I wouldn't call her a girl.
Why is that?
A woman, definitely, but a girl.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, she's not a young person. Anyway.
Yeah.
Almost like the Croat's mom or something.
Well, and that was the thing, is like, you know, is she the true evil mastermind that after all of this, we're finally going to see the person pulling the strings from the shadows? Is she going to be another heavy they're going to somehow leverage into this for, you know, Dead City 2, the Bronx edition? Or, you know, I feel like 5 episodes in, knowing that there should theoretically only be 6, you introduce us to a major character who obviously has some plot gravitas in episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you were saying, the Croat was acting like it was, you know, his mom or the boss, or, you know, like she's the queen of the post-apocalyptic Borgia crime family, or, you know, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I'm going, we should only have 1 episode left. Why are they introducing a new character that's obviously a heavy? I said, this is just another loose string in the pile of loose strings that I don't know what they're going to do with.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they have enough episode time to tie them up or make a sweater at this point. So I just was going, you know, who's she? You know, where did this come from?
Yeah, and I thought, like, this was one of my what's too, so I'll bring it up. But it was like, I just didn't like the way she talked. Like, because she was, like, obviously, he gets into this place. It's like a theater. There's, like, a guy performing to the other, like, you know, survivor hood rats of whatever this groups are or whatever. But then,
yeah, and what was that exactly?
I don't know, but it sounded like they must be part of some other group, because even the Croat says, like, oh, you're like dealing with them, or like with that one woman that's left. So they're obviously something. But just the way she was talking about this, I guess their whole master plan, which now we know is like, oh, they were trying to get Negan for whatever reason. I just got this total Gotham vibe out of it. For that Batman show, you know, a few years back or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, she was this total, like, I don't know, it was just so comical almost that it was like, it's not serious. Like, that I feel like we get in The Walking Dead, but like Gotham, it was all like, hey, you're watching basically reading a comic book on TV, and it's Batman, and it's just like, you know, all the villains are like really very like over the top and like talking like she was, where she's all like, oh, I'm so upset with you. It's like, oh, your thing started with a big bang and it kept me up all night, but then it fizzled. You know, it was just like, really? And I'm also like, who is this woman? You're in this like very elaborate like place with all, like you obviously are into acting and like theater or like reading books, whatever the book she was reading. I didn't catch the title, but it just, I don't know. It felt so out of place for me completely.
Yeah, she came across almost like the vampire villain in one of those old 70s Hammer horror movies. Like you said, very over the top. And it was just kind of, like you said, I was going, okay, this is what?
Yeah. I don't know. It just didn't fit. I didn't really like. That's one of the reasons, or it was one of the reasons. Yeah, that I just did not really put my rating or just enjoying this episode as much, because it was like, here are these things that like just like why, and then who is she, and what's this lead to, and we have one episode left, and then it was
and I didn't even care. That was my take. I just was like, who is this person and why do I care? And it's like, wait a second. Well, I don't. And then I'm like thinking like, okay, so the bad guy isn't the bad guy. He's just taking orders from a worse person. And like, I don't know. It's just,
yeah.
It suddenly
it seemed all like season 2 setup,
Yeah.
Like for like maybe the Croat and Negan team up in season 2 to take down the bad woman, or maybe we'll call her the bad actress. There we go. The bad Tony winning actress or something, I don't know. I didn't
see now you remind me of something.
And another thing, okay.
Sunset Boulevard.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
The aging actress on her swan song. I'm ready for my close up, Mr. DeMille.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
For you, you didn't care. I only cared because I kind of knew where we were going until we got there. And it just sort of like, it's like the show came over and I had all my plot cards laid out on the table, and the show just kind of flipped my table over and went, and walked off.
Like, good try.
It's like, what just happened here? And then, like I said, then we find out, Jenny pops the flare, and we had that last shot, and I'm going, okay, what just happened?
Yep.
What just happened? We'll find out. I don't know.
I just, I mean, and another thing, who was the large black lady who kind of like dissed the Croat?
Yeah.
And how does she fit into this? And it made it seem like the way that she was, the Croat isn't all that important in this. And it's just like, it was just a confusing mess to me. And that's why I said in my notes here, I found this whole episode confusing, because I felt like, and I think in some case, it definitely was the case where I wasn't paying attention, but I felt like the whole episode, I wasn't paying enough attention. And I think in certain points I was paying attention. And that point, I think that, the scenes with the what's her name? Is it Nora Desmond? Is that the character from Sunset Boulevard? Anyway, with her and the Croat, I was paying attention, but still going, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And so like I said in my notes here, I felt like Maggie breathing in the methane during this episode a lot. Just like on some methane trip but not in a good way. Just feeling confused and lightheaded and wanting to take a nap.
Yeah, I think just from what I'm getting, and this sort of solidifies something I had in the back of my mind, is I was watching the episode, I started to lose interest, and then something happened that made me have to refocus. So the second time I watched it, I had to force myself to watch it. And it wasn't really a pleasant watch because I was saying, I've got to pay attention because I can't let my focus drift because something's going to happen that I need to know. And so that's what I think, besides all the mechanical problems I found with the plot itself, it was just the fact that it didn't hold my attention, and then it did things that made me have to pay attention as to do this. Otherwise I would have just blown it all off and not really cared.
Yeah, there were a couple of points.
And I don't like it when the show makes me have to work this hard to watch it.
There were a couple of points where I had to like rewind and watch a scene again or parts of a scene again. And, sometimes that's good. Like in the case of, I rewatched the refrigerator door, scene again, because I wanted to see, okay, well, how did that happen exactly? And when I rewatched it, I was like, and kind of confirming what I saw is like, oh, that was cool. And you have this like, Walker King, Zombie King, whatever you want to call this, alien thing. That was really cool too, but everything that was around that was just a mess. And it's like they had this like nugget of a really cool thing. Like it reminded me of, I think that was the first episode that we see the garbage people, right?
Yeah.
The Jadis, her people, and they had that like big, armored walker fighting Rick.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. But that was a cool scene. Like when I compare that to this, like that, like there were parts of that episode, since I mentioned that, there were parts of that episode that were kind of, not so great. But like that scene with the fight with this, like, armored walker that with Rick, that was really cool. That was like, one of the memorable things of the show, I would say.
Right.
Probably, top 10, top 20 memorable things that happened in The Walking Dead. This creature was probably like, if you just take the creature itself, was probably a top 10 creature, right? But what they did with it, like the fight with Maggie was cool enough, but at the same time, methane induced, so it wasn't so cool. But also, like you had said, if Kyle, if that creature had killed Amaya and Tommaso, that would have been a much better send off for them than what we got.
Right.
They were just basically killed by lurkers that, just grabbed them. And that was just really not so great. So
yeah, no.
I mean, they could have done, something really horrific with that.
Yeah.
That it came out of the shadows and grabbed him, and, you get one of the heads popping out and lots of chompiness and lots of screaming and blood spray.
Or they could have like made them part of the Walker King, like maybe somehow they got tangled in and
they're not squishy enough yet.
Wow.
Well, still, you could have had them like kind of being like sort of on the periphery of it, and had them kind of reanimate as the scene goes on. That could have been cool. I just made that up like right off the top of my head. Just I wasn't thinking that until that moment, but still, they could have done something better with their deaths than what we got. What we got was just pretty boring. Yeah. And, also pretty standard. Like you're expecting them to die. You don't expect them to live.
Right.
I mean, I was a little surprised that Maya died, or Amaya, whatever her name is, that she died. I expected him to die as soon as he was revealed to be a mole, but still, I don't know.
It's the whole thing, and I like how we've always said, or I know like LT, you've said, it's like something must have happened to everybody in the apocalypse that they lost their hearing or whatever, because it's like, how do you let anything like that totally sneak up on you like that and then just grab you? Like, I don't know, or the walkers just all of a sudden just animate quickly, because I actually have that in one of my watts. But yeah, it's always like the trope, and at this point where they're just like, I'm just sitting here and there's a little hand behind me, and then of course I don't know, it's just like they die in the most obvious, like, okay, sure, they're all sitting in a room full of dead bodies. There's gonna be a walker in one and is going to kill somebody, and like Tommaso got tripped by one, and it was like, well, of course. Like,
and what bugs me is that they started off fairly well, and it's just like it's like they've just lost all their inertia, and so I don't know. I want to keep on hoping that this last episode is going to just knock my socks off, but I've been beaten too many times by having expectations. So.
Yeah, I agree. There's something more going on, because we'll find out.
Yep,
I guess.
All right. So are we all weeked out?
Well, actually, I still had some in mind. Okay. More. This is more of just, I guess, like an observation, because I don't know. It was like, so Jenny at the big pile of fat was like trying to like climb out to go, I guess, open the manhole cover or whatever. And then Maggie says like, oh, they're sealed. And then I kind of was like, well, how do you know that? I mean, I know they're heavy. Is that a thing? Because in Chicago, I know you could take the manhole covers off. They're just super heavy. So
you just have the little key tool, and you hook it and lift it up.
Right.
I mean,
and then if you're on the inside, like, that's the thing. I just kind of was like, oh, is that a thing that I just don't know about, that in New York or big cities that's a common thing? But
no.
It was just like this easy stop of Jenny trying to leave, when it was like, oh, the manhole covers are sealed. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, how do you know that, Maggie? Because that would have been an easy way to get out.
We could have avoided so much stuff.
Right. Exactly. They wouldn't have been in there.
I will say that I don't know how she would have lifted it off, and she's standing on a big blob of gelatinous poo and jello and fat.
True.
Because manhole covers are kind of heavy.
Yes. I agree. And anyways, yeah, it was just in response to her saying that. I was like, wait, really? Like, why would they be? Unless it's just this section of the Croats, like, methane factory that somehow she knew that, like, oh, those are all sealed. But anyways, it was just kind of wanted to make that point. The walkers that were chasing Negan and the marshal, I don't know, when I watched that, and I did on my second watch, I actually did rewind it. So before they get to the refrigerator door to whatever that school or whatever is, like, I don't know, the walkers seem very much more active and more violent. Like I almost felt like that they were almost running, and I don't know. I felt that was something new, or just something we hadn't seen so far in this show. It seems like they seemed like season one of the Walking Dead walkers, and they did seem like what we're so used to.
Yeah, they were
slow,
far perkier than we've been used to.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just maybe it was just that scene, and they wanted to do something different. I don't know.
Maybe they thought they were Red Sox fans.
Maybe that's totally could be. That's funny. The Cubs did kick their butt last weekend. Anyways, I am starting to wonder why people like Amaya and Tommaso even stayed on the island, because the marshal seems to know that there's this dock made of floating pieces, and that's how he's planning to get off the island. And it was I think that's what it was. It's he wants to go down the dock, and yeah, maybe it's where the ferry comes up to, whatever. But I just remember the picture he had from that, the brochure or whatever he was looking at, and it looked like just a bunch of yellow pieces that are all tied together that are floating on top of the water, and that's why
why there's still first aid kits on the buses. They're not curious.
I guess not. But I mean, that makes me think that it's so if there are all these survivors or other groups that are left on the island, I just feel like there's a lot of ways that you could make something that could float across the water, or at least down current. I mean, there's a current in that river, the water surrounding Manhattan. It just, I don't know. It just kind of made me question being okay, wait, how? Okay, Manhattan. I've never been to New York, so I don't know. But I know I've seen the map, and I know there's lots of transit stops and all this other stuff. It's a really big island, or a big chunk of land that is all of Manhattan. And it's there's all these buildings. I don't know. I just one would think that someone would be able to scrounge up enough to make something that floats to get basically downriver and then get to the mainland. And then why would you even stay in New York? Bridges or not.
They do have army surplus stores and sporting goods stores in Manhattan.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. I don't know. It just then made me just put into whole question though that it's well, then why why are they even there? You think out of all this time that they would have been we need to get off this island, and there's a whole nother world that has a lot more room and space that is just literally you just got to get past this water. So I don't know. It just, I don't know. It just, I'll leave it at that.
Maybe they can't swim.
I mean, well then.
I'm just saying, Kyle. Maybe they just didn't have enough initiative to try to go.
Yeah. Anyways, well, I guess that's all I have left for my Watts.
All right. Well, if we're all out of the hot sauce, that means it's time for the sad, awe, and potentially scared sauce. And it looks like we got no sauce from the listeners. So I guess I'll have to go around the horn. Do you have any sad sauce, Kyle?
Yeah, I didn't put anything in there. I mean, I guess if we had to, I don't know. There wasn't really anything too sad or awe because the two New Yorker red shirts died in a very obvious, easy way to write their characters off. So yeah, I guess it was sad that
the fact that and even though they died horribly and in a heap, it didn't make me sad.
No, but I guess I should be sad that they didn't get a proper send off, and that's what the writers gave them, and they're like, oh, okay,
okay. That I will concur with. It's not sad that they went out. It's just sad how they went out.
Yeah. Because you would think that this is they were probably so excited to be a part of this show, being a part of the Walking Dead family, the universe. And we know that whenever anybody died on the main show, they would have that this they wouldn't know until they read the script, and then it's like, okay, they would have like some kind of dinner on set or something luncheon to like celebrate that, like, oh, you lasted this long. And then this is just like, oh, this is how we're going.
Now they're going to get to go to, sign headshots at WaffleCon until the day they die.
Well, that's okay. Well, I don't know if I want to go get my Tommaso's
They've
signature.
been in The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Well, I used to feel like it was bigger than what it is now. So they didn't get it.
Well, I'm just saying
get a cool death.
The last time, well, I'll recant. Say last year when I went to GalaxyCon, there were a lot of people there who had much smaller parts in movies and shows that had a table and were signing autographs. And so I don't know, dude.
Okay. Well, I'll just leave it at that. That's all I'll give. It was sad.
I think the only real sad sauce that I have is that we're 5 episodes in, and I feel sad that this is where we're at after I was so excited for it. And, that is not to take away with anything that, any of the performance that Lauren Cohen or Jeffrey Dean Morgan have put forth, because, Negan is still, Jeffrey Dean Morgan acts his pants off with being Negan. And even though I've been confused about Maggie this run, she still does a convincing character, but our mantra has been of the last few years, no matter how good the actors are, they still have to have a script.
Right. Yep. I would completely agree.
I guess if I'm sad about anything is that I was expecting so much more out of this.
I agree, because we were talking about that after Fear or during Fear, just like, oh, we just get through this and then we know what's coming and it's going to be so good. Or looked like it was going to be so good. And it's not to say that it's not entertaining. Definitely have been enjoying the season or Dead City. But yeah, I kind of was expecting just some kind of like, oh, they've got like so much room to just do whatever they want. And they're not tied to a comic book or like, the original series. They can just do some fun new story. And it's just like, well, okay, it's entertaining. To the most degree.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's limited by budget or something, but like I expected more of New York City than what I'm getting. I'm getting a lot of the same kind of things that, we got in the last season of Walking Dead, and, maybe a little bit of World Beyond as well. We're not getting, like, I want to see New York City as like a character in the show. I want to see the big skyscrapers. I want to see them like do stuff with that. And it just like, if they're on Manhattan Island, I don't think anyone ever calls it that, but if they're on the island where Manhattan is, you would think we would see a lot of skyscraper shenanigans. We would see them up in the World Trade Center or whatever
or the zip lines. Actually, we got that once.
Actually, the World Trade Center, the current World Trade Center, wasn't there. Tower. Yeah, that wasn't. I don't think that was around yet in 2010. Okay, but still, a bunch of big skyscrapers still, and other than the line thing that they did in episode 2, the zip lines, and then killing the guy, the Croat killing the guy in the first episode. We haven't seen that again, and like, I don't know, it's just a lot of the same. Sewer stuff and subway stuff, and we've seen that already. It's not new, and it's not as original as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
That maybe the expectation was we were going to get some more skyline, something that was obviously
or Central
just
Park.
was shot in New York.
There's this whole huge
Central Park, exactly.
Because a lot of this stuff, we know that they did like the scenes at the river. Theoretically, you could do that, and it was in New York, or some of the other stuff. But for the most part, this could have been shot on a sound stage anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's nothing that was iconically enough New York that was obviously New York.
Yeah. Like, let's have a scene in Times Square or something, let's have a scene where we see, I don't know, the big ball drop or something. Okay. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something that makes me think of New York City. And this is just a city. It's not, it could be anywhere, really. It just.
And granted, it would have cost $1 gazillion to do some of the shots on location in the street.
Right.
But for what we got, like you were saying, give me something that I know is iconically New York in the zombie apocalypse that, is not CGI and not on a soundstage. Something that is, well, you just can't get that anywhere but being on site.
Right, there were a couple of scenes where I saw some big buildings in the backdrops, and it felt like that was probably put there by CGI,
Yeah.
Like I was envisioning, not that they have one, but like the big, what do they call that thing? LT, the thing that they use on Strange New Worlds and Discovery, that thing that they use to project these big,
like the AR wall.
The AR wall. Thank you. That's what I was trying to say, but I couldn't remember the name of it. Yeah, the AR wall. It's just it's just not. It's not living up to its potential. Is what. And this like Nora Desmond or Norma, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
We don't even know what her name is because I don't think they said it. But this actress, bring me my powder kind of character. I don't get that whole thing. And who is she? Is she she's the obvious one that's pulling the strings, but why is she pulling the strings?
Yeah.
Why isn't he pulling the strings? Who's this other woman that scene just threw me way the hell off. Because at first I thought we were seeing a flashback. I'm like, oh, is this another flashback? And no, it wasn't a flashback. It was this other thing. And that took me a good 2 or 3 minutes to figure out that this wasn't a flashback, because his whole demeanor wasn't the same. Like he was kind of like this, like, hey mom, I'm here, and I'm, that's kind of what it was. It was, or like he was an underling.
Yeah.
And
that's what I got.
That whole, it's just, I didn't get it. I don't get.
Yeah.
Why not make the bad guy? And like, are you trying to tell me that Negan had some, Sunset Boulevard character in the background too? No, I don't think so. I think Negan didn't need that. Maybe the Croat does need that. I don't know, but like, I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
That's why I say it was a whole big mess. And that was just like a right turn that I didn't need. It just kind of like derailed the whole plot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Very much so. It was like, yeah, I'll agree with exactly what you're saying, because it did. It just basically left more questions, and then it kind of just messed with everything, because it's like, well, then why have we been getting this total, like, the Croat as this scary, evil, whatever, and then it's all like, oh yeah, oh no, there's this other woman that is like, he's basic, like the woman that came out from the office first, and basically like was calling the Croat a bitch or whatever. And it was like, okay, well, so then who's this woman? And then the Croat, who we thought was like, oh, he's the scary bad guy, is like, oh, it's almost kind of like he's like, oh, like somebody else that like like that was either on his level.
He kind of went into Renfield mode.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't know the reference.
What'd you say? I didn't hear it.
Renfield, Dracula. He's like,
okay, the
little toady. He suddenly turned into, Igor.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
but the Renfield is better, because Renfield is the one that kind of rounded Dracula's victims up for him.
Okay.
So
I am not a Dracula connoisseur, so I don't
neither am I, but I've seen the movie. So
like to me, we're 5 episodes into a 6-episode season, and this just threw a whole bunch of questions that I didn't want to ask.
Right. This should have been like episode 2.
Or
no, it should have been episode -1. It shouldn't even exist. Like, I don't want, like, unless this character surprises me next week, I just it's like it deflated the whole swear word series. And you guys can guess what swear word I want to use there. Starts with an F. Anyway, I don't want to say it.
Frangible?
It just I don't know why this was necessary to go this to divert here.
Yeah.
Everything, like, I have not liked Ginny at all, and I've questioned why she is the way that she is, but I've not questioned how she fits into the plot per se. Like, I get why she's there. I find her annoying because she doesn't talk, but I haven't found her like, okay, I don't understand why she's here. This character, I don't understand why she's here.
Right.
And she deflates the villain. Suddenly, this villainous mastermind is a lieutenant. And like he's like Dwight,
Oh yeah.
Compared to that's he's at Dwight's level of bad guy.
Yeah.
And I just and this other woman is like Simon, right? So like he's at the same level maybe that he was before.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I just like, are you kidding?
Yeah,
you've made him be the bad guy, and suddenly not only is he not the second, he's maybe the third or fourth, and it's just like I just and who was this woman, and how does she fit into it? I'm not talking about the drama woman, but the other woman, the one that insulted him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see where she fits in. And she didn't have the kind of, I hate to use this word, but I'm going to use it just because it fits. She didn't have the kind of gravitas to seem like she would be a major character. Yet the way that she treated him made it seem like she would be. Right.
Right.
So like, I don't get that whole thing. Maybe she's going to die, in the cold open next episode or something. And she'll be dispatched quickly and we won't have to worry about that character much. But she's not the main issue. The main issue is this actress, and the Sunset Boulevard analogy is perfect here. I do not understand why we're here.
Right.
It's
All right.
And my whole point was, if you were going to put us here, there should be more episodes left to resolve it.
Right. Because it's just not enough time to
there's as I have said on many occasions about other episodes, we have run out of runway.
Yeah.
There's no way they can stick the landing, in my mind, because there's just not enough time left.
Yeah.
It seems like this time the kids didn't build the plane, they're landing the plane.
Well, not even that. I don't think anybody's landing the plane. I think everybody's in the back waiting on their beverage service, and there's nobody in the cockpit.
Well, all right. Well, let's keep moving on, because
I think you're right, Kyle.
Beating a dead horse until we see next week.
I was going to say,
I am going to give a sad sauce, though. My sad sauce is to us for watching.
Okay. Well, if that's all the sad sauce that we can come up with, it's time for feedback.
We can talk about it. Done talking. Time to listen.
Indeed so. So it looks like we don't have any voicemails, but we do have written feedback. And written feedback kicks off with Dieta from Detroit. And she says, so Maggie lied about Herschel being abducted, apparently. She made a deal with the Croat to find Negan in exchange for her son. Chin scratch. I may have missed an episode because how did the Croat find them at the hilltop / Georgia and he is in New York? And how did the Croat know Negan was still alive after he was put out of the sanctuary? I guess I'm still missing the connections or the reasons why we are where we are. And she makes a note, still catching up on the podcast in case it was mentioned. And what does Maggie lying to Negan have to do with that Jenny girl? Is she going to talk finally and tell Negan what Maggie did? I don't understand how Negan was okay with leaving his wife and child behind to look for the people who assaulted his wife. Agreeing with Ivan, hoping this season finishes strong and clear up some of the storylines like the bounty hunter in an apocalypse and the silent child lurking in the shadows. And she ends it with 2 big shrugs.
Yep. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, next is Ivan from Minnesota, and he says, the show started off solid, but slowly issues have been creeping in, and it feels like the story could be so much better. I didn't like much of this episode besides the cool walker, but even then, it was kind of a dud before the finale. I hope they finish strong, at least. Yep, I think we just kind of all mentioned some of that about, thought it started off pretty decent and interesting to now it's kind of like, huh?
Brian, you want to take Mike?
Mike from Asheville says, honestly, Ivan said everything I was thinking. Maggie not taking the oxygen was stupid. What is she trying to prove? We confirm she lied about the reason for going to New York. It's all a ruse to get Negan to Croat. I can't wait to see how Negan reacts to Maggie finding this out. Also, are we going to see Herschel again? Did they hire the actor for 2 scenes only? Why did Ginny shoot the flare? Is she hoping Negan comes finding her? What's up with the crazy woman running the show? Dead City is setting up a lot of stuff that I don't think we are going to get answers on. This was the weakest episode for me. I'm hoping the finale kills it. That's a good summation, I would say.
All right, LT.
All right, so it looks like we've got Glennis from Toronto, who says, don't open dead inside, painted on the door that Negan opened, or rather Armstrong shattered, like another TWD first episode. I can't quite remember on The Walking Dead who that was, as it's been so long. This time, at least, it was written in such a way that it didn't read like, don't dead open inside.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in. Just, I don't know. I think that scene was just Rick in the hospital. I don't know. Maybe there was I don't know if they ever revisited the hospital again, and we saw that again later down. I don't think so. But anyways,
well, I'll just say we did see it in a short.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we
right.
saw it in it was a season of shorts that dealt with that hospital. I think it was, I want to say it was between
It was
season 3 and season 4 or something like that.
So,
But there
yeah.
were a bunch of like shorts. They did these
I remember,
for
yeah.
like 2 or 3 seasons, and the second one had focused on that, and we saw it there, and we maybe saw it a couple of times during flashbacks or
something like that. Yeah,
but yes, you're correct. It was the pilot episode. It was Rick, and that's where we saw "Don't open dead inside." Or "Don't dead open inside."
Yeah.
How you read it,
right? No, and I thought just as them kind of maybe giving a nod to that, but it was like what I actually said was a "Do not open dead outside," and so I thought that was funny to be like, I don't know what are the chances. Like it would be written exactly like that or something, but we know, because that's such an iconic scene that we already know exactly what it is. For them to like do kind of a play on that, and it's like, oh yeah, but don't open because it's dead's outside. So I don't know, but I just want to point that out. That's like that's what I stopped it, and that's what it did say. It's cool.
I guess I was reading that. So Tommaso was the rat and died like one in the sewers of New York City. Good point. Didn't it dawn on them in the sewers that it wouldn't be wise to rest up in a passageway full of the dead? So exit stage right Tommaso and Amia. Must admit I had to check what their names were on IMDb. That's how much they mattered to me. Smiley face.
Funny.
Oh, Glennis. Maggie trapped in the sewers with that Walker boss reminded me of when Tara was trapped and Glenn was trying to free her when they were in that tunnel with walkers all around, and Abra, Zeta, Maggie, and Eugene saved them both from the walkers, and a happy reunite was had by Glenn and Maggie in The Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 15, Us. It sort of teaches us that there is no wrong, really, when you live by the skin of another person, that they are just trying to get by. A little like Fear the Walking Dead, What's Your Story? Negan killed those people because of what they did to his wife. Armstrong now wondering if his brother wasn't all that bad. Maggie lying to Jenny and Negan so she could get Herschel back. The Croat just seemingly trying to please the Dama with her rules and orders. So I guess that's her name.
I guess.
Thanks, Glennis. Interchange.
I didn't pick up on that either.
Well, since she checked IMDb, I'm going to take her word for it. That interchange between the Croat and the Dama were very uncomfortable and awkward. Is the Dama his mother? But even so, their relationship is still very strange. A weird sadistic murderer in their midst with those baby arms and legs and dead animals, and with the similarities between the dead person with the axe through the head that Negan and Armstrong came upon, and Armstrong's brother also trussed up and axed in a similar manner. Is the Croat or the Dama committing those atrocities, or some other new baddie? And I would say, I don't think his brother was trussed up. I think he did himself with the revolver.
Yeah.
So I'll have to give you half credit on that one. And if I'm wrong, I'll own up later. And she finishes by saying, no wonder Maggie was saying Negan is key to getting Herschel back. So now we know it wasn't key, just that he knew the Croat, but the Croat was holding Maggie's son for ransom. I somehow think telling Negan the truth up front would have helped her anyway.
Dun, dun, dun. Yep. That's always good. 701. Yeah, I was kind of going over, it's like I saw this before, so that's her comment on about the sewers and really why it would not cross your mind when I saw her write that. I'm like, good, I'm not the only one, because it was obvious. Like, there was just such a setup. We knew exactly what was going to happen.
Yep. All right, so have we already beat the wheels off this wagon, or do we have anything else left to say.
Yeah, I think I'm fine. That's all that we need to talk about. I
think we've.
No, I was just saying. I was like, because nothing has been announced. There's nothing been leaked, at least. That it would just very seem that if, like, this literally is it, the Dead City was just these 6 episodes. Brian made the comment, like, they did not say, at this series finale or the finale or like whatever of next week's episode, that like how they're going to wrap all this up. But then if this turns into being like, oh, now we have Dead City Part 2 coming at some other later down the road, you know, it's like, well, don't put us in another situation where it's like, oh, the writer's strike and now the actors are on strike, to being like, oh, it's going to get delayed. And then it's like you never end up finishing it.
Oh, God.
Yep. I'm like, just, you guys should have just stuck with the 6 and try to do a good story. And hopefully next week will be just like, be at least something that will help wrap things up, because it's all over.
I mean, I always thought that the show was gonna be more than just 6 episodes. Like with Rick and Michonne, we're pretty sure that it's just 6 episodes and that's it, right? Whereas I'm thinking that this is going to be more, but nevertheless, I still feel like it's, not what it could be.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. It's like they haven't filmed if this is going to be more than 6, I feel like we would have heard, or someone would have heard something, because then they would you would think that they would have continued filming, or are they going to play this off to being like, oh, yeah, then next year we'll have or whenever it is, because Daryl Dixon's show's coming on soon. But, and that's supposed to be 6 episodes. So this, if this was kind of their little like surprise, like, oh, hey, it's not over, it's like, we'll have another 6. But if they haven't filmed it and then we also have what's going on, then it's like, oh no, things get delayed, and it's gonna be like, I don't know, it could have been a risky kind of choice they made, not realizing that, like a pandemic, there's a strike going on. All right.
Well, if that's all we got, I guess it's time for news, ratings, and info.
There's a couple weird stories on the news.
All right, you want to take this, Brian? I can't open that link.
Well, 1 minute. Okay. So we don't have too much to say about the ratings. We just know that it got 701,000 viewers last week, on this episode. I'll say it again. Don't take it out. Just make
I'll leave it. Yeah.
Incompetence shine. Okay. So this episode, season 1, episode 5, it got a 701,000 viewers, down 20% in the demo, with a 0.12 in the 18 to 49. We don't have any other info about it. That's down from last week's 0.15 in the demo, but strangely up in viewers from last week at 697,000 viewers last week. And of course, Talking Dead was not on. I don't know if it's going to be on this coming week or not. I put a link in the chat that I thought was worth discussing. Looking at the summation for the U.S. market, TV shows heating up in the United States. In terms of the trend, The Walking Dead Dead City is actually up 317%. Now, I don't know 317% from when. It doesn't say in that graphic. But if you go to tv.parrotanalytics.com/US, you will see what I'm talking about, and it's under the TV shows heating up in the United States. The number one heating up in terms of percentage from where it was is The Walking Dead Dead City at plus 317%. So that's good. Now, when it comes to the other part of that, though, looking at its own The Walking Dead Dead City page, it is giving it at 21.7 times the demand of an average show, which puts it at the outstanding, which it has been in for most of its run. I think it started in the good, but has been in outstanding now for several weeks. The demand over the last 30 days, and this is a rolling 30-day average, it shows at 260.2% increase from where it was 30 days ago. It is at the 100th percentile of genre. I don't know. So it doesn't really say what the percentage is there, but the main thing is to show that the discussion about the show is up from where it was, because I don't think the discussion about the show was really much at the beginning of it. I think more people are talking about it now that it's 5 episodes in, but it's still not where it was. Now, if we look at the parent show, just pulling that up, it's at 49 times the demand of an average show in the exceptional. And I think that drafts basically any talk about the universe. It gets some heat. So I think some of that's probably coming from Dead City. Some of it's probably coming from Rick and Michonne talk. We know Daryl Dixon is going to be coming in the fall. And when the time comes, we'll be discussing that, of course. But anyway, so it's still a pretty popular show. It is showing a percentage increase of 9% over the last 30 days. That's not a huge, that's not the uptick that the regular Walking or the Dead City's been getting, but a show that's been off for almost the season,
Right.
that's pretty good.
Yeah. The universe is still going strong.
Well, there's, it's still part of the cultural zeitgeist, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that while Maggie and Negan are two popular characters, come on. They've added buzz about Rick and Michonne and Daryl, which would arguably be the 3 most popular characters in the series.
Yeah. Yep. And they keep.
Yeah, they've done a good job at focusing series on the most popular characters. I think Negan and Maggie, they have there are definitely people that are into those characters, but I'd say more so Rick and Michonne, and I would say more so Daryl. So I think when those shows come out, I think especially the Rick and Michonne series, I expect will be popular.
Yeah.
At least at the start of it, be a lot of people, curious about that. So.
It was, because that's basically what the movies were supposed to be. That's the whole thing. That is, I think a lot of people are going to, those that were excited about when they announced the movies that never happened, to being like, okay, well, this is going to be their answer to that. And we've got to find out about the CRM and what's going on and what other tie-ins. I feel like they'll throw more money and more things into that show than I think necessarily they'll do with Daryl. Because I mean, even though Melissa McBride supposedly is on that Daryl's show, or it'll be Daryl and Carol or whatever, you know, how they do that or what's the story, blah, blah, blah. But it's just like the Rick and Michonne is basically how The Walking Dead the main show, I feel like, is how it will end. It's like that will get wrapped up to where they live off happily, or maybe they come back to, you know, we don't know. I just feel like that's going to be the true ending of The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I mean, I could see after, like, they could do a season 2 of this show. They'll probably do multiple seasons of the Daryl show.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them at some point bringing back Tales of the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Kind of to fit in with that. You know, sort of like how Short Treks was used for those of you that listen to us on the Star Trek side of things. But yeah, that's my take. I mean, I'm of the sequels, I guess you could say, series. The Rick and Michonne one is the one that I'm really wanting to see, because my love of The Walking Dead died just a little bit when Rick left the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so into the show that when Rick died, quote unquote, when Rick left the show, you know, that took a lot of the sales out of me. Not completely, you know, I grew to love the show again, but it's just not been the same without that character.
Right.
You know,
right.
he was the character that I rooted for. And you know, I would even say that when Carl left, that was also a big thing, because it was the Rick and Carl story. And
right.
you know, without Rick and without Carl, you know, not that I loved the Carl character, but you know, it was a big part of Rick. So, you know, it lost a little bit, but then it lost a lot when Rick left.
Yeah. So that's why, so them having, I mean, we'll see, but I don't question that they would put more resources and money into that than like they're, you know, budgeting for this. So, I mean, their focus, I think, is going to make that one and make sure that one should better be good.
Right.
We hope. Well, yeah. Well, speaking of, and I put this down in part of the news because it was obviously being aired during this week's episode, that the Daryl Dixon show has a date. So September 10th is when it starts.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I kind of like, I'm going to be right in the middle of harvest.
Yep.
So
right after Labor Day.
Yep. So hopefully our continued, how this has been working, that I'll be able to still get everything out in time. But everybody, just FYI, there could be some delays, because at least that's mid-harvest. Like, things should be banging, and so it's going to be time will be a little tricky. So bear with me.
And if you don't, what we'll probably have to do is just grip it and rip it, so to speak.
Yeah, that's
just whatever gets
recorded just gets put on.
Yeah, we don't even like truncate silence. We just release it, and
we'll do it live.
Well, that's kind of where I wish I was with the Star Trek stuff, and because I am finding it difficult to get the editing done right now. So because I'm behind. So
it's just
I can envision that happening with this side of things when that comes, because of the timing.
Yeah. No, it's all
because also, much like with this, I believe Lower Decks will be going on while that's on. Now, that's a shorter show than Strange New Worlds, but it also usually gets a lot of feedback. So, you know.
All right. Well, any other news you want to add?
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Not me, man.
Cool. All right, LT, you want to tell people how to interact with us?
I will. We want to encourage you to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Walking Dead TTM. To submit your theories and feedback, most people post in the designated episode thread in our Facebook group. That's facebook.com/groups/Walking Dead TTM. You can send us an email. That's walkingdead@talkthroughmedia.com. You can also use the feedback forum on our webpage. That's talkthroughmedia.com/feedback. If you'd like to leave us voicemail, you can call area code 216-232-6146. Remember that all of our new episodes are out on YouTube. Just search for Talk Through Media and remember to subscribe and click that bell to get notified when we have new videos. We also want you to like and review the Talk Through Media Facebook page at facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. Of course, the absolute best way you can support us is through our Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/walkingdeadtalkthrough. And we'd like to thank all of our Patreon supporters: Renee Murray, Deetta Patterson, Mike Rollo, me, and Kyle McAdams.
Yay!
Remember that Deetta, Renee, Mike, Kyle, and LT will both be getting an early version of the episode this week.
I already got it.
So did I. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. While you're there, give us a rating or a review. You can also leave us a review at podchaser.com. You can rate individual episodes or the whole podcast. And remember to share our posts on Facebook and Twitter when we post them, or tell a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to get us new listeners.
You can go ahead and say this since your lead.
Well, right now, I kind of just mentioned it a few minutes ago, but we are working. Huh?
I didn't say. So, where else can we be heard on the network? You started going, and I didn't.
I thought that was already recorded.
No, not that part.
Okay, not that part.
All right, LT, take it away.
So, Brian, where else can we be listened to on the network?
Please leave that in. Anyway, yes. Well, we talked about it a few minutes ago. But LT and I are recording episodes of the Star Trek Strange New Worlds talk through. We have currently recorded 4 episodes. The Patreons are getting a split because we recorded season 2, episode 3 on 2 outings. So I thought at the time, and it turned out to be the right thing to do, because getting the episode edited turned out to be a hard thing for me to do because of my work schedule. So I edited and sent out to Patreons the first half of that episode 3, and the second half I'm going to work on tonight after we're done here. So hopefully I'll get that. That one's a shorter one, so hopefully I'll get that out either today or tonight or tomorrow morning. And then episode 4 we will get out later this week. Episode 5 LT and I have not recorded yet, but I believe we're going to record that tomorrow night, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So, and if that for some reason falls through, I'm also off Thursday night. So,
Okay.
So if we have to delay it, we can do it Thursday night. But anyway, so yeah, that's coming along. I'm a little bit behind. Sorry, listeners, if you listen on the other side of it. But we are getting episodes out, thankfully. And yeah, and then of course the Rebinge DS9 is still going strong. That is midway through season 7 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. They'll be getting into Voyager soon after that. And so that's it for the network right now. So we got 3 different podcasts going. And soon we'll be doing Lower Decks after Strange New Worlds, which is now, at the time of recording, halfway done. So we have 5 more episodes of that coming out. And then I have not heard a premiere date for Lower Decks. I don't know if you have, but we assume it's going to be sometime in August. So if it follows the same schedule it has the last 3 years, that's when it will come out. So that's it for me.
Next week on the Walking Dead Talk Through Dead City Edition, we'll be talking about The Walking Dead Dead City Season 1, Episode 6, which is entitled Doma Smo. It was written by Eli Journet and directed again by Gandja Monteiro. And the description, according to YouTube TV, is tensions between Maggie and Negan come to a head. Jenny's search continues. Questions arise about Armstrong's path forward. So until next time, I'm LT.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm Brian.
And this is the Walking Dead Talk Through. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.